We need ambulances at Forbury Gardens now, like as many as you can get.
Yes,
There's about
absolutely.
10, at least 10 stabbed people, maybe more.
Late in the afternoon of June 20th, 2020, the sunset spread over the green grass of Forbury Gardens, Reading, Berkshire, England. The peaceful atmosphere of the summer day was only slightly disturbed by the laughter of small groups scattered around the park. But in less than a minute, what was once a space of laughter had turned into the scene of a massacre. Three friends, sitting chatting in the middle of a crowded park in the open air, were completely unaware that tragedy was just a few steps away. The attack was not a spontaneous argument, but a calculated, extremist-driven act that shocked the whole of Britain. This is the story of a crime that could have been prevented, but no one did. And don't forget to like and subscribe now so we can continue to see how the story unfolds. The three victims of the Forbury Gardens attack were all well established, well liked by their colleagues and friends. James Furlong, 36, Deputy Head of History, Politics and Government at the Holt School. He was described by his pupils as a dedicated teacher, always patient and willing to help anyone who needed it. Generations of pupils remember his enthusiasm in every lesson and his genuine concern outside the classroom. Joseph Ritchie Bennett, 39 years old, American citizen, has lived in the UK for many years. He has a close friendship with James Furlong and Dr. David Wales. Friends and acquaintances said he is open, sociable, and regularly attends community meetings. Dr. David Wales, 49 years old, senior scientist at Johnson Matthey, a large chemical corporation based in the UK. Colleagues commented that he was a principled, meticulous person who had made many contributions to the field of applied chemistry research. In contrast to them was Khairi Saadallah, the killer, a man of Libyan origin who had come to the UK as a refugee. Saadallah had no personal connection with the three of them. His attack was determined to be completely random, but extremely violent, making the whole incident a sudden and unforeseen tragedy. Before the incident, all three victims were simple people, in harmony with their surroundings and highly regarded by society. They were not involved in any disputes or personal conflicts, nor did they show signs of having experienced serious trauma in the past. Each maintained a stable life, focusing on work, friends, and community activities. On the contrary, Khairi Saadallah, the perpetrator of the crime, had hidden dangers. Some information showed that he had signs of psychological instability and extremist ideology. However, these were completely beyond the awareness of the three victims. They had never met or had any contact with him, and had no reason to realize the potential threat behind that seemingly peaceful meeting. June 20th, 2020, the afternoon before the tragedy. For several weeks, Khairi Saadallah had shown unusual signs. He had relapsed into drug use, was sometimes obsessed with extremist ideas, and was recorded stalking others, showing that Khairi Saadallah's unstable mental state was gradually losing control. Although he had no personal dispute with the three victims, he had internal tensions, which combined with his extremist ideology made the situation dangerous. According to the inquest report, Saadallah had been released from prison just 17 days before the incident after serving a short sentence for a violent offense. During his detention and after his release, he had repeatedly expressed extremist views and was assessed by MI5 as having the potential to commit a violent offense. However, no strict monitoring measures were put in place after his release. The three victims, James Furlong, Joseph Ritchie Bennett, and David Wales, had no contact with Saadallah. They had no knowledge of his disturbances and potential dangers, nor had they had the opportunity to intervene or take precautions. That afternoon, they had simply chosen Forbury Gardens as a place to relax, chat, and enjoy a peaceful summer's day, completely unaware of the danger that was approaching. In the days and hours leading up to the attack, Khairi Sadallah displayed a range of unusual behavior. He is said to have quietly stalked crowded areas, purchased a sharp knife, and written extremist notes reflecting violent ideology. His drug use continued, further reducing his ability to control his behavior and increasing his impulsiveness. These actions were later determined by the investigating agency to be terroristic in nature. However, at the time, no one, including the 3 victims, recognized the signs of the threat. They had no idea that danger was right around the corner, just waiting for a moment to explode. The silence was tense, like a ticking time bomb, and when it exploded, the victims had no time to react. Afternoon, 20th June 2020. Forbury Gardens, Reading. It was late afternoon. The park was still bathed in the pale yellow of summer sunshine. James Furlong, Joseph Ritchie Bennett, and David Wales sat side by side on the grass, chatting as they always did when they met. The air around was quiet, the sound of the wind blowing through the trees mixed with the sporadic laughter from other small groups in the park. 1852. From a path at the edge of the park, Khairi Sadallah appeared. He approached quickly, his hand clutching the small, sharp knife he had prepared. No one noticed his hurried footsteps. (1853). Within seconds, Sadallah approached the group from behind. The first attack was aimed at James Furlong, who had no time to react. He immediately turned to Joseph Ritchie Bennett, then David Wales. Each stab was executed quickly and decisively, showing that he had planned each move. 1854. When some people in the park realized what was happening, screams rang out. Sadallah immediately fled the scene, leaving 3 friends lying motionless, blood spreading rapidly on the green grass. The scene before their eyes left them stunned. As the crowd scrambled to call for help, Khairi Sadallah dropped the 8-inch knife on the ground, then turned and ran toward the park exit. All 3 suffered multiple fatal wounds to the neck and upper body. Their deaths were determined to have occurred almost instantly or within minutes of the attack, before medical personnel arrived. They had no chance to resist. The sheer surprise allowed the crime to unfold in a short but brutal time frame. At that moment, an off-duty police officer who happened to be in the area responded. He pushed through the crowd, following the assailant's path. The chase continued on the narrow streets surrounding the park, with the distance between the attacker and his pursuer reduced to just a few dozen meters. Within minutes, information about the attack was transmitted to the nearest patrol units, triggering a cordon off of the area and a manhunt for Sadallah. On the night of June 20th, 2020, the Forbury Gardens area was completely sealed off. The forensic team carefully collected every trace: an 8-inch knife left near the path, bloodstains on the grass, shoe prints on the ground, and data from surveillance cameras around the park. In parallel, autopsies were conducted to determine the cause and time of death of each victim. The official report did not release all the details, but the conclusion was that all 3 died from multiple sharp wounds to the neck and upper body, with death occurring almost immediately or within minutes of the attack. Evidence collected at the scene played a key role in reconstructing the entire course of the case and determining the criminal responsibility of the perpetrator. Immediately after sealing off Forbury Gardens, Police began reviewing data from the park's surveillance camera system and surrounding streets. From the recorded images, they quickly identified the attacker, Khairi Saadallah, a Libyan who had been on the security agency's list of suspects. The investigation focused on collecting all evidence of Saadallah's actions and preparations in the time leading up to the incident. Information from his phone, computer, and witness statements showed that he had actively planned, chosen the park as a crowded place, and brought weapons in advance. The analysis also pointed to extremist ideology as a key factor in the attack. The investigation determined that this was not a personal conflict, but a terrorist-motivated attack, with the aim of causing maximum damage in a short period of time. All documents, statements, and evidence collected were passed on to the Counter-Terrorism Unit and the Prosecution Agency to serve the prosecution process, laying the foundation for a case that is considered the most serious in the UK in 2020. Within minutes of fleeing Forbury Gardens, Khairi Saadallah was tackled by police on a nearby street. The pursuit, initiated by an off-duty officer, closed the gap considerably, allowing emergency services to close in quickly. When arrested, Saadallah did not put up much resistance and had traces of blood on his clothes. The perpetrator was immediately handcuffed, read to, and taken to police headquarters for questioning. The time between his attack and his arrest was only a matter of minutes, ending a short but devastating escape for the reading community. During questioning, Khairi Saadallah quickly confessed to all the crimes. He pleaded guilty to 3 counts of murder in relation to James Furlong, Joseph Richie Bennett, and David Wales, and 3 counts of attempted murder in relation to others who were present at the park at the time of the attack. Saadallah's testimony reinforced the investigation's conclusion that the attack was deliberate, premeditated, and motivated by extremist ideology. His guilty plea shortened the trial, but also showed his coldness in facing the consequences of his actions. The case file is supported by a consistent and coherent body of evidence. CCTV footage from in and around Forbury Gardens captures Khairi Saadallah's movements, the time of the attack, and the direction of his escape. The 999 emergency calls, with their panicked sounds and instant descriptions from witnesses, helped to reconstruct exactly what happened in just a few minutes. The autopsy results confirm the cause of death, the number of injuries, and the fatal nature of each stab wound, consistent with the CCTV footage and witness statements. In addition, the seizure of the murder weapon at the scene and traces of blood on Saadallah's clothes matched the victim's DNA. All these elements were arranged by the prosecution into a tight prosecution case, showing the intentional nature, pre-preparation, and terrorist motive of the case, creating a solid foundation for bringing it to trial. In January 2021, Khairi Saadallah went on trial at the Old Bailey, charged with the murder of 3 people and the attempted murder of 3 more in the Forbury Gardens attack. The jury, after considering all the evidence and testimony, concluded that this was a violent, deliberate, and intolerable act of terrorism. Khairi Saadallah appeared in court with a calm, almost cold demeanor. He showed no signs of remorse, nor did he show any obvious emotional reaction when he heard the indictment or when the evidence of the crime was presented. His blank eyes and motionless appearance made many people in the courtroom feel creepy. The defense attorney tried to argue for the possibility of mental disorder based on his history of psychological instability and erratic behavior before the case. However, this argument was not accepted by the court because the evidence showed that Saadallah had planned and acted with clear calculation. The Old Bailey sentenced Khairi Saadallah to a whole life sentence. The maximum penalty in British criminal law applied to particularly serious crimes. Specifically, 3 counts of murder against James Furlong, Joseph Richie Bennett, and David Wales, each eligible for a life sentence without parole. 3 counts of attempted murder against others present at the park, long-term imprisonment to run concurrently with the life sentence, no parole or commutation. During his trial, he did not display any dramatic or bizarre behavior such as crying, tantrums, or disturbances. Sadallah's silence and indifference in the face of the maximum sentence of life imprisonment only underscored the ruthlessness and decisiveness of his choice of violence. The majority of the public and the victims' families considered the verdict fair, demonstrating the court's determination to deal with terrorism crimes. However, there are still opinions that the core problem lies not in the sentence, but in the failure of the mental health system and security agencies to intervene early, causing the tragedy to happen. These arguments continued to spread even after the trial ended. The media and the public raised the question. Sadallah had shown signs of instability and was on the security agency's attention list, so why were there no effective interventions before the tragedy happened? The tragedy at Forbury Gardens claimed 3 innocent lives, people bonded by friendship, simple conversation, and a quiet life in the heart of the city. All ended by a stranger with extreme motives and absolute coldness. The case is a stark reminder that silence and lack of monitoring for signs of mental instability, as well as radicalization, can pave the way for unforeseen acts of violence. Timely intervention can sometimes be the only difference between a peaceful day and a tragedy. The final image still haunts many. A seemingly peaceful summer afternoon turned into a violent storm, where love, knowledge, and jobs are taken away in an instant. What do you think of this case? Did the health and security systems miss an opportunity to prevent an avoidable tragedy? And if you could go back in time to June 20th, 2020, what do you think could have been done to make sure these 3 people are still alive today? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos.